Hello, hello. Oh, we're live. Hello, Eastern Ace. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode, a new episode of Conversations with Phil and Whit. This is the first installment of the new series that we're launching now. But before we get started, I like to always start every show with a few announcements. So, what we got coming up? The Leadership Empowerment Series on March 1st will be taking place in Boston University. I was about to say Boston College. I was going to get in trouble out here. But this is Boston University. Registration is still live. We have great speakers. This is one of our speakers. We have professionals, leaders in the different industries coming to speak to the members of Eastern Ace. This is an event you do not want to miss. The link should be in the registration on the website. We also still have opportunities for colleges and universities to sponsor the organization through the booster program. So we have a few universities that actually have done it, the Friends level, and this is a great opportunity not only for corporate partners to contribute, but also the university to contribute. And so here's some examples of our college boosters. As you saw, we had some guests. We had, oh, look, we're here. We got one from Lincoln. That's where Whit's from. So is that coincidence? So we have some opportunities. So if you're interested to learn more about that. And then also, look, please be more and be more. We are very excited for this conference. We had this wonderful keynote speaker. I do not want to mispronounce her name. Maybe Whitney, when she pops up on here, she can correct me. But we have great keynote speakers. We have just an amazing conference schedule. It's going to be in Baltimore. I will be there. So see you there. If you're coming in person, registration is live right now. And then lastly, just to give myself love, why not? The latest Eastern Ace blog featured your boy. So go check that out. Blog Spotlight. That's on the website. Also, I'll also say, if you are Eastern Ace member and you want to contribute to the blog, you have some content you want to share, please reach out. They're still taking submissions from everybody. But without further ado, let me just give the flowers to this wonderful co-host of mine. I met Whit about 2 years ago during the pandemic. We were on the conference experience committee together. And it was just one of the great experiences. You saw that Bob and I were on that, but that was the committee that Whit was on as well. She has grown in her leadership. She's also the director of director of, I can't do the whole, but she's the director of the career services at Lincoln University. And she's also the co-chair of the conference in Baltimore. So she can give you more details about it when she comes on. But without further ado, I'm happy to introduce my lovely co-host, Whit.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Phil. How you doing?
Great. And so can you also give a little bit of the shout out to the keynote speaker, pronounce her name correctly, because I want to give her love and shout out her correctly.
Yes, definitely. So Gigi Gilliard, you said it like right the last time that you mentioned her. So it was perfect. I was like, yes, you did that, Phil. But yes, Gigi Gilliard, I'm really excited. I absolutely love her. I've known her pretty much my entire life. So I'm so happy that she's going to be our keynote for our conference this year.
Awesome. And then, this is our first episode. Before we bring our guest on, tell the listeners a little bit more that if I miss anything about your experiences or your experience in Eastern Ace before we get started.
I want to say that you hit everything right on the head. So yes, I am the director of career development here at Lincoln. I'm in my office right now. Yay, orange, go orange and blue. I am the annual conference co-chair. Was with you for conference experience, and then I became the conference experience co-chair for last year's conference. And I'm also on the D&I committee. So shout out to the D&I committee. And what's up, y'all? But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm from New York. Our guest is from New York. Just excited about her. So yeah.
So why don't you introduce our guest and let's get it started.
Definitely. So I feel like our guest doesn't actually need an introduction, but since we have to, she currently does diversity work for the state of New York, and she serves as the Eastern Ace D&I director. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but yeah, you already know who it is. It's Tibby. Hi, Tibby.
Well, welcome.
Hello, welcome to me. Welcome to you. Welcome to everybody. Welcome to my fake home. So happy for y'all to be here.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I decorated it myself.
Excellent. And I love the piano in the background. A very nice touch. Maybe you can do chopsticks. So Tibby, we know each other. And actually, I'm also on the D&I committee, and I think the work that you're doing is amazing. But I want to go back because I know you. I want you to set off the origin story. And one thing that really, the origin story, not us knowing each other. No, not that origin story. No. I'm talking about the one where you told me that you knew that you wanted to infuse diversity, equity, inclusion, and career development. So I think going back into my story of knowing you, that conference that you went to in Buffalo, if that's correct. So please take us in that time machine and tell us a little bit about that, because I think that kind of leads into the work that you're doing now currently.
So when I started off in Eastern EACE as a young assistant director in career development, I was really excited to just be a part of a conference that really broke down what my job was supposed to be. Because truly, when I entered into a career and professional development space, I was coming from residential life. I was coming from a background in not-for-profit. So, it wasn't the traditional pathway into higher education and this type of work. So going to Eastern EACE was really exciting for me. But when I went to the conference, I was confronted with a couple of different things, learning a little bit more about just how we support students, but thinking to myself, I don't see myself reflected in some of the conversations, and thinking to myself, okay, what can I contribute as being someone that when I'm looking around, my experiences in college, as far as like my career development experience, weren't really being highlighted. Then I'm walking around and I meet these amazing women, Dr. Monroe, Tracy Hanton, Kathy Crossgrove. Like, I just met and fell into this community of folks that started having conversations with me that were pretty much right in line with what I was experiencing and what I was seeing in the career development space. How do we make sure that we're intentional about developing students while taking into account the diversity of their backgrounds? On top of that, how do we support staff members that come from different backgrounds in the space that want to do this work for their communities? Like, how do we have those nuanced conversations? And I was lucky enough that when I started in Eastern EACE, my director, Noah Simon, shout out to Noah Simon, Albany, Jermaine, all my folks out there. When I started in Eastern EACE, Noah was the incoming president. So he was really instrumental in just picking my brain and asking me, like, what did you think about the conference? What do you think are some improvements? And as a young professional, I hadn't really had that experience where I've only been working at your office maybe a year, not even. I go to this conference. You are the incoming president of this organization, and you're sitting me down in your office and asking me what could be better. That took me aback a little bit. So I told him, I was like, we need more diversity and inclusion conversations, because students that come from different backgrounds need to be developed in different ways, and we need to consider their backgrounds when we're talking to them about career development. And he said, okay. And then I didn't hear about it for a couple months. And then all of a sudden I'm being brought into his office with somebody from headquarters asking me, Tibby, do you think that we should have a director position on the board for D&I? And again, I'm just like, me? You want my thought on this? And I said, yeah, absolutely. If this organization wants to show that there's a commitment to diversity and inclusion, it needs to start from the top. It needs to be highlighted. Now, I want to mention, this is way before COVID, the renaissance of, social movements, all diversity, equity, and inclusion being at the foreground of people's minds. Okay, so this is way before any of that happened. And the fact that, he was able to embrace my thoughts on what I thought about the conference, and that I was able to create an impact on an organization, only having been there once to a conference, was mind-blowing to me. And then the fact that after that conference, I had lifelong colleagues and friends that became my mentors and supported me in ways that I can't even express to you. Like, I really owe Eastern ACE so much for being a place where I could develop my leadership skills, but also for people just letting me know that they see me. And they see me in on bigger platforms than I could even see myself. So that's where the impetus of the idea and the D&I board position kind of started, with that encounter, and having Noah Simon be the pioneer president to put that into our board. And then Dr. Alicia Monroe, rightfully so, the 100% right person for the job, came in to be our inaugural director on the board. And we just stayed, connected. I became a member of the D&I team, and was really supported and basically professionally developed to step into the role of director of the D&I team, which is what I've held for the last 2 years. And I'm really sad to be rolling off. But that's kind of how it started, and that's where we at.
Awesome. Love it, Tibby. So I actually want to stay on the topic of D&I, right? So you're doing this D&I work. I feel like all three of us were doing DEI work in some way, shape, or form in our respective spaces, right? And what I've noticed is that everyone in this DEI space has a completely different definition of what DEI or D&I or DIA, DIB, all of things. They have different definitions. So what is your definition of DEI or DEIB or DEIA?
So it's important to understand that language is ever evolving in this space. I think that sometimes we can get caught up in the weeds of the language as well. But for me, diversity is about all the different ways as human beings that we are different and unique. Inclusion is really about ensuring that folks feel that they are a part of the space, that they are empowered to share their opinions and have their voices be heard, and that those voices actually impact the space, right? So if I am in a space and I am uncomfortable, inclusion is about us as a group really mitigating why it is that I'm uncomfortable, and trying to find a compromise that makes everybody happy, which is really, really difficult to do, extremely difficult to do. But we can get to a place where at least we can feel that our thought process was taken into consideration. And then equity, to me, is really about ensuring that all the access points to opportunities are available to everyone across the board, regardless of the unique identifiers that they might have within themselves. But yeah, I think that the belonging piece of it is an amazing part that's been parsed out in the last couple of years and really been talked about. And I think that access is really an important piece of it, because sometimes what ends up happening is that we have all these theoretical definitions for what these things are. And that leaves people feeling like, okay, but what's the action? What are the ways that we can move forward? And I think that using things like access, it makes it easier for people to kind of say, oh, okay, so when you're talking about equity, you're talking about making sure that different needs are met. So it's almost like that individualized educational plan, right, that exists in education. Why does that exist? Because we have learned throughout our understanding and research of how minds work and how people are different, that folks learn in different ways. So those are the things that I think about when when I'm conceptualizing DEI. I always try to attach it to things that are already in place in our society so that folks can see it can be done. It's just that maybe your thought process about what this actually means might be getting in the way of you understanding what it is that we're trying to create for folks.
I love it. And I'm actually going to tail into that because one of the things I think about is theoretical and then practitioner. And so I'm you know me, I'm a doer. I mean, sometimes I don't like the theory that it's all talk. What are we doing? So can you speak to like a couple tangible action practitioner things that you wanted to implement within Eastern ACE that regardless of the theory, these are actual things in practice that actually contribute to DEI or DEIB and all that stuff. So not the theoretical part, but the practitioner, like we said what we're going to do, we do what we're going to do within this organization and whatnot.
So something that started happening even before I became director were rubrics. Rubrics being utilized at different levels, whether that be in the selection of award nominees or even in the selection of grant recipients, how we think about our programming for our conferences, rubrics, like how do we objectively say that something is worthy of receiving something or something is worthy of being within a conference, and have it be less about, well, my gut feeling is, right? And have it be more about, okay, what are the qualifications that we're asking for? And then how are people actually meeting those qualifications? Instead of it just being left up to, well, my gut feeling is, right? That's super subjective. Depending on who the committee is, that's going to change. The criteria is going to change every single time. So that's a part of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And making sure that when I think about DEI, right, I think about operationalizing equity. So to your point, rubrics is a way that we do that. Having checklists that we actually ask questions about impact and ask questions about who are we trying to target and why, and what is the benefit, and what are some of the historical contexts as to why we have to have this conversation, and why it's important for us to really set aside the time and actually gear resources towards righting particular historical wrongs, right? So resource allocation is one, utilizing rubrics is another one, and then having impact questions that allow us to assess if we have all the right people in the room, if we have if we understand what the impact is going to be of what we do, if it might cause harm, right? Those are all business practices. That's what's so funny to me. People want to make this into like this separate category. I'm like, child, this is risk assessment. This is emotional intelligence, right? This is basic leadership concepts, but taking into account that we've been wrong or that things have been inequitable for certain groups. But it's all there. It's all there. It's all embedded in the practices that we use every single day. We just got to skew it to an understanding that not everybody has had the same experiences. So sometimes I cut to the quick of it, a little too fast, I guess.
See, I absolutely love the fact that you're like this passionate about this work. Oh, you're disappearing. Okay, that table was trying to take you out.
Listen, let me tell you about I have I'm actually on Star Trek. I might disappear. That's
floating head. It's just a floating head. That's all. But yeah, so I love how passionate you are about this this space, this work. And, every time I'm in a D&I meeting, like, it makes me feel so good. Like, it's like the high point of my day every time we have it. And it makes me sad that we can't have it like every single day, but I know like we're busy, so we can't do that. And I know that your term on the board is sadly like up. That my heart is broken. When I say that my heart is broken, it really is. But I am happy that I had the opportunity to work with you and be on the team with you. But I do want to know, what do you hope the next D&I director is able to accomplish for Eastern ACE during their term?
I think that one of the things that I definitely recognized hosting and leading the D&I team meetings is that we are a small space that's creating a large impact, but on a smaller group of people that keep on coming back. So I want to see that the spaces become widened, and that there's more opportunity for folks to take some of the concepts that we infused in our D&I meetings that were standards. For example, we started off every single meeting with a humanity check. How are you as a person? Because how can I talk to you about helping other people if I don't take the moment to recognize, or at least acknowledge where you are in your day, how you are feeling, how things are going with you as a human being? Sometimes we ask a lot in our society for us to care for other people without us knowing how to take care of ourselves. And that's the disconnect, right? If you can't take care of yourself, it's a lot harder to know how to be empathetic towards others because you're in pain. So everything that you're coming into is coming from a particular angle of pain and hurt. And if no one can see that, if no one can stop and say, yo, are you okay? Is everything okay? Then the cynicism of folks not being in it together creeps into everything. No one sees me, therefore, what's the point of me doing any of this work when people don't even care about me? And it might seem selfish, but it's not, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So starting off with just asking folks how they're doing makes the engagement of our committee be what it is. And then after we make sure that we are okay, or at least that we're able to spit some of the venom of life out for a second, then we jump into what it is that we need to do strategically for the organization, and we go through our business. At the end of the meeting, though, we always try to end the meeting with gratitude, a gratitude statement or kudos. Questions like, who made you smile this week or this month? Or who did something for you? Or who did you see do something for someone else that was really impressive to you, that really filled your cup? Because again, my thought process on all of this is that if you don't know, very RuPaul's Drag Race, my favorite show. If you don't know how to love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anybody else? And diversity, equity, and inclusion truly is about extending love even when folks don't deserve it. Ooh, and that's hard. So I hope that that can be translated into other committee meetings. I hope that that can be translated into how we start our conferences. I hope that that can live in all the spaces that we as Eastern ACE create. I really hope that the care for the actual human being that's doing all the work and that has the task of caring and developing students, that is what our organization is known for. It's not just an organization that you become a part of because you're learning how to do this stuff. It's an organization that you become a part of because people will actually embrace you, hold you. And as you're transitioning through your jobs, through your career, they're there to help you bounce back if you need that bounce back, to cry if you need to cry, but ultimately to be a human being.
I just really feel like we got robbed. This is the first time I didn't want to cut off a half an hour. I can go a little bit longer and record this. I mean, Tibby, you're dropping too many gems for 30 minutes, and you also talk a lot. So I should have definitely spaced this for like 45 minutes, this episode, because it's very special. But I'm going to go totally left. This is not even an Eastern Ace question. This is a, dream question. Go back in a time machine, right? You go back in a time machine.
I might disappear though. Wait,
yes, you're doing it right now. And you can give yourself early professional, maybe that same conference, bringing this conversation full circle. That Buffalo, being at the Buffalo conference, Tibby, one piece of advice besides investing in Bitcoin and getting rich, or whatever. But give that young professional one piece of advice to help them as a professional. What would that one piece of advice be? And then you disappear back into your time machine.
I think that the piece of advice that I would have given myself back then, it's hard. It's hard for me to think about what I would have changed because I'm so grateful for how things worked out. But I think I would have told myself to write down my experiences more. I've gotten more into the habit of documenting some of my life and my experiences and things that I do in the hopes. I started doing it in the hopes to give my kids an opportunity to understand my thought process when I be bugging out. I'm not gonna lie. But now thinking through, I talk a lot about certain things, but I wish I would have documented and been able to reference more things that happened to me along the way. And I should have journaled more. I think that's what I would have said, because there's value in that.
Well, I'm gonna let Whitney wrap us out, like, any last thoughts and closing remarks, and then I'm gonna share some more announcements. But I just want to say from my part before Whitney wraps us up. Thank you so much, Tibby. I learned so much. I actually did take notes of this and the thoughts that you shared about DEI and all the things, and the kindness and gratitude, giving the flowers. You always inspired me to be more thoughtful in my advocacy and using my voice and all that stuff. So thank you so much.
Anytime. Thank you for being a part of my journey as well, because you inspire me.
I appreciate you, Tibby. I really do. So Phil, I want to ask a question really quick. Ask you a question. Can I answer that question that you asked, Tibby? Because I was sitting here like, that's a good question.
What question is that? And the answer is yes. Do what you want.
Going back in time.
Oh, yeah, you can ask that question too. Okay. You know what? We're doing whatever we want. It's our show. So, yeah, you can answer the question too, not just the guest.
Period. All right, cool. So it's funny because I was on LinkedIn earlier because I've been on hiatus on LinkedIn. I haven't been posting. I've been trying to stay away from it, but I decided to go back on today. And I saw one of your posts where I think you write letters to yourself and you tell yourself to open it at whatever date. I think that's what it was. I would love to do that. That's something that I think I should do. But a piece of advice that I'd give young professional Whitney, fake professional Whitney, working for the New York City Department of Education as a para, feeling like I'm unseen and at the bottom of the totem pole and stuff like that. I would tell them that, everything's going to be okay, baby, you're good. You are seen, and the work that you're currently doing will benefit the students that you're currently working with in the future. And you'll make it you'll make a difference in this world, and you'll be in a unique space that people don't necessarily think that much about. People don't think that much about career services and all the work that we do. So yeah, I let them know, like, hey, you good, sis, you're good, keep working.
See, I love that, because now we started a new thing where anyone can answer any of the questions, because we do what we want. This is our show. So I'm going to take everyone. Thank you, Tibby. Thank you, Whitney. And we're going to just wrap up real quick. As I said, once again, I'm going to go backwards. Shout out to your boy and the blog. I just always want to just highlight, it's Black History Month, y'all. Blackity black. Shout out to the guest speaker at the keynote, and make sure that you do register. I think it's still early registration until the price goes up, early bird. So please be more and be more. Please participate or think about being a sponsor. If you're a college, you can also be a college sponsor, which is a new program this year, which is right here. And then also think about coming to the Eastern ACE Leadership Empowerment Series, which is March 1st. I think registration for that is still live as well. So that's it. There's been a great new installment. Everyone have a happy Friday. Take care of yourself, and we're done.